It's Laura at Sheer Passion. Let's talk about a fun subject today. Let's talk about something a little different. How about the internet? Since that's what I'm putting these videos on, and I am having to talk to an audience, people that I know or people that I don't know. I don't really know who plugs into all of these, and I think that it's really important if we talk about the cyberspace and what's going on cyberspace. Sometimes it's hard. I could talk about any subject, and today when I was thinking about this, I just recently, I was sitting down with Joshua, and I said to him, do you ever notice how when people put things on Facebook, Facebook is this whole other world. Facebook is a coined term. Facebook is like a facade. It's not real. Facebook is an expectation or a way to express or communicate, but it's not usually positive. And so even in my hair business and my jewelry business and my makeup business, I can show people what I'm doing with my hair, my nails, my skin. I can take pictures just like the rest of the people around the world, and I can put them on the internet, and I can show you what I can do so that you can learn to think the way I see things, not the way you see things. So the internet is there so that you can look through somebody else's perspective. So what happens when we put negative things on the internet? Well, you'd have to think full circle. You have to think about who it's coming from and what we all get from that. What do we get from negative speak on the internet? First of all, our minds connect with it more quickly than we can even imagine when we're reading it. Usually it's about how we've failed to get rid of all of the toxic issues in our life, and we've ended up in this muck, and it's really not our fault because we've had to deal with these other things or these other people. And I'm not saying that I can't see the funniness in that. I'm not saying that I can't laugh or giggle at something that is absolutely hysterical. But the reality is, what happens if you cannot purge it from your mind? What happens if you cannot add a positive twist or a positive vibe to that? What do you really start to believe? I do believe, from my experience, that the more you read something that takes all of society down, instead of building us all up, that's how we get unparalleled. It's flipped. So even though we believe that we have to have failures to become successful, that is not what we will research to get better. We just feed ourselves that. There's a line. Well, Laura, you have to fail to become successful. Oh, okay. But the road to being successful doesn't always, each step, mean that I'm failing. So what does that road look like? These little cliche lines that we throw out are not the most positive unless we are actually an intellectual thinker. Most of the time, when we read these things, we're emotionally trying to figure out, well, first of all, which one of our friends put this on the internet? And if it's not her, or her life, or her home, or her pets, or herself, what does it mean? It's not to get us off the hook. A lot of people have been giving me feedback on my pictures. They're like, Laura, you're very positive. I can be negative just like any other person on the planet, but I do have a tendency to err on the side of perkiness. Once I put my feet to the ground, baby, you better believe I'm soaring through the rest of the day. One of the things that I have learned is that attitude is a huge thing. For whatever reason, I am so very thankful for what God has given me. I'm so very content for what I have. Do I want more? Sure, I'm a human being. I'd like more clothing. I'd like more free time. I'd like more friends. I'd like more success. Yes, I'm just like you. Absolutely, I would. But I've always been so excited to be who I am. I haven't had the easiest life. Remember, I shared with you that I'm in the hair business. It's very toxic. It's very cutthroat. But I also really like doing hair, and I've learned that it's okay. It's okay to not be the best hairstylist in the salon. It's okay. It actually is. It's a very good place to be. Think about that intellectually. That means you're moving on up if you really want to. If you're the top stylist, you're afraid of losing that spot. So you have to be an intellectual thinker. Would everyone get better being negative about where they are or accepting who they are? Well, see, when we start to realize that Facebook in itself is actually a great place. I, for one, have always loved Facebook. I have never not loved it. I am not ashamed of my Facebook page. I hide my Facebook page from no one. I don't hide my emails. I don't hide my text messages. Actually, whoever you are, whoever's watching, go ahead and search my pages. I never lock anybody out. People say, well, Laura, some people want privacy. From what? Your bad selfies? I mean, seriously, what are you keeping people from? I don't understand that. Privacy on what? If you put something on the internet, I got news for you. You don't have privacy. It's foolish thinking. You're manipulating. You're manipulating. You only want certain people to see it. The reality is, if you want to delete somebody off of Facebook, most of the time you don't delete them, you just unfollow their posts. What is it? It's passive aggressive. Folks, Facebook is only as positive as the person who's using it. You can't think in my perspective when you read those things, you think in your perspective. If I'm happy-go-lucky and I post pictures of my outfits, you might wonder, why does she do that? Well, do you take pride in getting ready in the morning? If you do not take pride in getting ready in the morning, you cannot ever understand why I would. And unless you ask me a question, whenever you see a photo, you can't connect to it. You will emotionally push that away or hide my posts. I will either inspire you to be better or irritate you to not see it. Either way, you and I are not competing. You and I are not in competition. The Lord has made us totally individual and unique. There are always going to be more beautiful women out there than myself. Always. Good for you, and I'm excited for you. That is awesome. I am not comparing myself to you. I am comparing myself to myself yesterday. I would like to be better, more successful, more in control, more fun, more real than I was yesterday. So it's going to take some looking at it. It's going to take some addressing it. It's going to take some awareness. I got it. And that is why I've learned to stay consistent. There are days where I don't always want to do the job of a hairstylist, but I've realized that's okay. Those days I just have to push through. Those days I actually have to try harder to meet the needs of the person emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually that are sitting in my chair. Because on those days, it's not necessarily about what I want to do. It's about how we will all get better. And because I can do hairstyling with my eyes closed, when I go into work that day, it is about the whole entire town getting better. It isn't me wanting to do something. Cyberspace does not need to be negative, but it is communication. And what do we lack in America? We lack truth, honesty, character, responsibility, accountability, awareness, integrity. We do not communicate. We are afraid of communication because if we tell somebody what we're really feeling or thinking, that's too vulnerable. That hurts. Your insides feel like they're turning to concrete because that's called anxiety. Well, I'm here to tell you, we've got to push through that. Not only is cyberspace causing problems with the way people interact with other people, the false interpretation of photos, snippets, Snapchats, Twitters. Folks, it doesn't actually resonate here if you're emotionally blocked. So no matter how many times you read that other people have had failures to become successful, that will actually never help you to become successful. And it doesn't actually help you forgive your own disappointments and failures. How funny that the devil sits back and laughs that we will love or like those little things and actually never get off the couch to make a difference. You can only think with the intellect that you have. And when you put those stupid little cliche sayings on there that devour 98% of the population and make them like Homer Simpson, and empower the 2% who couldn't make it on their own if you took away the other 98%, it's illogical. Therefore, it is not the best use of our brain. It is not the best use of society. It isn't the best use of time. It isn't the best use of humor. It isn't the best use of genders. But it's on Facebook every day. That's because we're not paying attention. We're not using our brains. We can. We can use our brains. We're going to have to learn to communicate. When you walk into a group of females, when you walk into a job place, have you ever noticed how people are incapable of holding their shoulders high, standing up, proud of the way that they are presented? Because you're not proud. You're not proud. You weren't proud when you brushed your teeth. You weren't proud when you combed your hair. You weren't proud when you walked into your dirty kitchen. You're not proud when you realized you got $3 left of your name. You're not proud because you're almost on E, and wherever you're headed, you're really not excited about or proud of that either. So once you got somewhere, whether you had Facebook to look at or not, you've got your intellect. Folks, we've got to stop doing that. That does nothing. We've got to learn to communicate. You got to start with yourself. When you show up to a location or you sit down to read Facebook, if your Facebook mirror images the way that you feel about yourself inside, you're going to look nothing like mine. I do not use my Facebook space to tear down or to be sarcastic unless it's to tease on myself, to leverage myself, to be funny about myself. But it isn't to leverage my husband, it isn't to leverage my kitties or my stepson, because that does nothing. All I do is uplift them on Facebook. Do we have troubled times in our family? We're human beings. Of course we do. But we do not attack each other's character. We are smart. In this house, we are a three-stranded cord. We are not easily broken. We stand up against passive-aggressive behavior, and we ask specific questions. You want to clear a room? Just start asking specific questions. Waiting for the answer, you can literally hear people's insides turn to concrete. They have no idea. They don't even know how they got out of bed today. That's what's sad to me. We are walking around like drones. God has given us the ability to stop that. We have got to stop. Not only have we decided to eat more, drink more, drug more, debt more, passive-aggressive more, we're using the internet to show people how we feel about ourselves on the inside, to create a facade, to create awareness that we have problems in our society, and no one is talking about it. Folks, if you think that we can't see that people have put weight on in photos when they upload them to the internet from last year, you got to be kidding yourselves. Do you know everyone's stalking Facebook photos to figure out just how much weight your booty has put on in a year? That's okay. The reality is, on some deep intellectual level, they recognize you're struggling. Why? Because God gave us a brain that no one ever needs to say you're struggling to look at you and know, whether it's cyberspace or not. I'm sorry, but until we address what is really bothering us, we will never be in control of the food we put past our mouths. I want to encourage you in that way. As a girl who struggled for 16 years overweight in a family that is morbidly obese and absolutely deplorable with their food choices, you have to understand that is because they do not love themselves enough to say enough. That when I walk out that door, I need to bring the best person that I am so that I can be ready and available to be God's witness. There are so many of us out there like that. Folks, if you are overeating, I can tell you this, you're overspending. If you're overspending, you're under-communicating. And if you're under-communicating, you have no idea what God wants you to do with your life. You'd have to ask specific questions of how you could be better serving yourself so you could be better serving others everywhere else. We have got to stop giving cyberspace the ability to wreck us intellectually. Cyberspace can be used very positively. I love it. I've never not loved it. I love the internet. I love what it gives me. I love the tools that it gives me. I love the fun that I can have. I love the things that I connect with. But I got to be honest with you. There's so many people who do not know how I can put the smile on my face that I do every day. And that is because for that 3 seconds that you look at my photo, you cannot relate to me because you do not live there any other time. That is what I'm talking about. Trusting that the Lord has given me a purpose allows me to get up whether I have a husband or not. That Laura is special because God has designed me that way. I've made mistakes. I will continue to make mistakes. I just am really quick at explaining to myself, why did I do that? Out of arrogance, out of selfishness, out of being tired, out of not being structured, whatever it is. That's human beings. But I'm quick to go there. I'm quick to go there. I think that's what God wants from us. It's not the perfection, because I got to be honest with you, there isn't any human being on the planet, Christian or non-Christian, that's going to be able to stay there. So you can just drop your self-righteous bag of bullcrap over here because no one wants to listen to it anymore. Christians who think they're perfect is exactly why no one's going to church. You cannot identify with that. You cannot relate to it. And it is exactly bunk. I'm debunking those myths right now. We need to go to the Lord more quickly when we make mistakes, but I am not going to be the human being that says to you, we won't make them. We won't make the large ones. Maybe not having the affairs in our marriages, but speaking disrespectfully to our spouses. Yeah, because it's there. It's there. Be very quick to ask for forgiveness. Be very quick to pay more attention to what led you to the fight to begin with. It's on the same level of eating too much and spending too much. It's communication, folks, and it starts with the individual that you're looking at in the mirror. Let's be better. Let's be better together as a society, because that's when we're going to create change for the Lord. I do love life every day, I have to say. Spending my life with my husband has given me complete joy, but we work on ourselves daily and we push through. I want to be there for you. Reach out, write, email, text, do whatever you need to. You have to get in the game. You have to get in the game. You've got to be in there. You've got to be paying attention. And it isn't money that makes you happy. It's never going to be money. It needs to be in here. It needs to be in here. You need to feel it. If you cannot walk out your doors and smile at another person and say hello and just love them where they're at, the way the Lord did, then you've never accepted it for yourself. And your Facebook page is going to be just as yucky. I empower us to think differently and stop buying into the cliches. Right now, there's tons of politics on there. Just be very careful what we say and what we share, because maybe somebody else would feel hurt by that. Let's just be very open and honest to how we're feeling. Maybe when we share those statuses that we just say, hey, I agreed with this part, but I wasn't sure about this. And ask for feedback, because that's how we start to communicate and learn. We're going to be better, guys. I know it. One day at a time. Thank you so much. Plug in next week, SHEERPASSION. Share with your friends. Thanks so much.